Welcome everyone to today's event, How to Turn Account Openers into Deep and Profitable Relationships. I am joined by Brenda Hooker, CEO and President of Community Service Credit Union, Brooke Bayliss, Sales and Marketing Officer for First Bank of Alabama, and Adam Westley, Senior Vice President here at Digital Onboarding. I'm Laurie McLachlan, Chief Marketing Officer, and we're excited to begin. So today we're gonna, Adam's gonna cover, the path to profitable relationships, what gets in the way and how to solve those challenges. He's also gonna give you a quick tour of our platform, show you an example campaign so you get an idea of how it really helps engage account openers from the start. You can use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen, enter your questions there anytime, and we'll make sure to address them. Tomorrow, you'll receive an email with the recording of today's session. And now I'm going to turn it over to Adam.
Great. Thanks, Laurie. So I want to start with a little description of what we do. The word onboarding gets used so much in our industry, and it gets used with a lot of different types of solutions. And so we like to sort of set the stage here. So this is a very simplified version of a marketing funnel. You got your acquisition marketing, top of the funnel work that's really drawing people to your institution, introducing them to your brand and products and services. You've got that account origination layer, which is where we hear that word onboarding used most commonly, but really that's a transactional element, right? It's got a beginning and an end process, and it's about collecting information, verifying that, and going through that onboard or that sort of origination element. But at the end of it, it sort of stops. Where we pick up and where we really view the word onboarding as coming into play is everything post that account opening. So it's that welcome and activation, educating the individual on different products and services, maybe educating them on financial services topics, and then really cross-selling and upselling. And so this is where we focus with our platform. So we've got a couple of really popular use cases. One of the ones we'll go through today is account utilization, that sort of incubation period after you've opened the account and before you get really active on those digital tools. How do we really ensure that that is a smooth process and it goes really well? We'll talk a little bit about cross-sell and upsell use cases today. We won't touch on some of these other ones, but M&A system upgrades are definitely some very popular use cases for our platform. I talked a little bit about education and nurturing, and indirect auto loans for those of you on the phone who do get into that space quite frequently. This is a really difficult use case, and one that we perform really, really well in. So when we talk about today, we're going to talk a lot about checking accounts, and they're kind of that gateway product. They're the product that sort of opens up the relationship and then allows you to sort of cross-sell and upsell a lot of our other solutions. And so, when we look at it as an industry, we spend a lot of money to acquire checking accounts. On average, it's about $300. Now that ignores if you've got any sort of incentive layer in there where you're sort of rewarding people for opening accounts and setting up certain types of services. But as an issue, we typically, on average, are closing 25 to 40% of those accounts within the first year. So they either go dormant or they just don't get used and the individual closes them. And why is that? Well, it's really hard to move a checking account. There's a lot of steps and processes involved in there. And as an industry, we haven't taken much effort to remove that friction. And that's one of the main core use cases that we focus on. So Laurie, I think you had some really good anecdotes here you wanted to add.
Yeah, I do.
In?
I guess the first thing I want to say about friction is it's perceived friction. So even if you think having someone click 6 times isn't that hard, if they perceive it's hard, they're not going to do it. And that's why these numbers are what they are. Brooke, I met you, right after you first adopted the platform. I remember our conversations, and I've spoken to you recently, and I know friction is a real theme for you and managing it and trying to do better. Do you want to kind of, share your thoughts and advice on this topic?
Yes. So the main reason that we went with digital onboarding was because we didn't have anything. We serve very rural markets. So they were coming in and getting their notebooks with all of their checking account documents. And there was a 1-pager in there that told about our other things that we offered and how to activate your debit card, how to sign up for online banking and things like that. So when we were looking for a platform to kind of help us out with this, this is when we found digital onboarding, and it has been a game changer for us because they get a whole journey of how to, once they open their account, how to activate their cards, how to sign up for online banking. And then it walks them through different products that we have. So it's totally changed the way that we communicate with our customers from a initial point of contact standpoint.
Yeah, that's great. So same objectives, you just made it a lot easier for people to do those things.
Right.
Great. And so, we know that checking accounts are our most profitable products that we have out there, but I did mention it being that gateway product, right? So people view that checking account as where they have their primary financial relationship, especially if they're transacting on it on a regular basis. And so why is that so important? It's that the data shows that the person is 4 times more likely to come to you for that next product and service when they have that core relationship. So that account opening activation period is so critically important to setting that foundation for all the other efforts that we have as a business. When we want to cross-sell and upsell products, they do look to us because we have that primary financial relationship. And so, when we look at what's happened in the industry, we spent all this money on digital banking tools and mobile banking applications. We spent all this money at the front end of the process to make that account opening process really slick. And then we hand somebody a packet of paper to talk about these innovative digital services that we have and that we've built on the bookends, and we forgot about that middle process. And so, this is sort of a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek jab at that process. But Laurie, some thoughts here as well?
Yeah, so I love the New Yorker cartoons, and I had someone make this one for us because I just think it really does depict the ridiculousness of what's going on. Like, you can't hand somebody a binder or a folder and say, look how innovative we are. Check out with screenshots, right? There are better ways to do this. And Brenda, I know you sing from my songbook. We talked a little bit about what onboarding used to look like and how manual that was. Do you want to weigh in on this ridiculous situation?
Yes, for us, it felt very disconnected. There was a disconnect from the actual opening of the account, and we were as far as sending a welcome email, but it's like expecting someone to go to your website and read every single thing you have out there to figure that out. And we knew that we needed a journey. We knew that we needed to present them things in a logical order that made sense to the majority of account openers and present services that they weren't already enrolled in when they walked out the door. And this just allowed us to smooth that out and to present things that help them make their lives easier.
Great. That's good to hear.
Awesome. So I think we have our first poll question coming up.
We sure do. We'll do it real quick and then we'll reveal the answers. So this first question is about priorities. Does your bank or credit union have an objective to fully engage a greater percentage of new account openers, meaning getting them to adopt the services, using their accounts, hopefully getting more products later on? Give you a few seconds more to answer. Okay. So overwhelmingly, the answer is yes. I would love to learn from those 3 people who said no, because I bet they have some other very important objective that I'd love to learn about.
Great. All right. So what's so unique about the digital onboarding platform? Well, really what we find in a lot of these marketing efforts is we're just telling the user what to do, but we're not giving them any tools or context around how to actually solve the problem. So we may reach out with email campaigns. We may send those paper welcome kits like we talked about. We'll talk about the importance of direct deposit. We'll talk about making sure they activate that debit card, get access to those digital tools. We haven't helped the user do anything. And so what's unique about our platform is we build these personalized microsites that give them those digital self-service tools. And so we'll walk through some of them today. But, Laurie, I think, there's so much to this part.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it, right? Communicating is not helping. It's not the same thing. If you could tell someone 20 times on Tuesday that they need to enroll into direct deposit, but are you really helping them do the task? And so that's where, you can fire off emails, but where are those emails going? Are you making them log in somewhere? Are you making them find the info? Or are you sending them to a guide or a microsite? And I wanted to bring both Brooke and Brenda, maybe Brenda first, into the conversation, because we talked about microsites and the role that they can play. Do you want to share your point of view?
The journey really makes it easy, and that is the most important thing. Even if they're not moving their account, if that's their first account, if it's not easy, they get frustrated and they give up. The one you have here on the screen, who pays you, is just fantastic. Like, I don't want to go to my HR. Where do I go to figure out how to set this up or to change this? And the second microsite, I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself, but my favorite one is Card on File, because it literally gives them a pathway to the most common reoccurring payment sites and ask them to put their card from your institution on file.
I'm actually glad you brought that up. It is a little early, but Marie had a related question, so we may as well address it. Marie asked, are there any plans for assisting in changing bill payments? And so we're going to get to Card on File in just a second, which is the modern way that Americans are paying bills. We also support assisting with other methods. Brooke, I just wanted to give you the opportunity to chime in. So thinking back to what you told me about your old process and what you're able to replace it with, I guess, what advice would you have for the institutions on the line here?
So back to Card on File, we've used it for that, and we did have success. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but we did. That was a huge campaign for us. And as Brenda was talking, I was thinking that, we have a checking account that's sort of a rewards account, not really, but it is, and where we offer like discounts. And there's an app involved, and we have used this to get people to actually sign up. One touch gets you that app on your phone. So that's what we've used it for. And that's been huge for us because, again, you can tell them all day long, but if it's not in front of them, and, even I'm guilty of that. If I don't have my phone in front of me to click on it, I'm not going to go back and do it. So that's huge.
Yeah, good point. That's a really good point. We just, particularly, okay, so you can either enforce penalties if people don't do the things that you want them to do, adopt certain services, or you can give them bonuses, right? They both have merits. But we're about to publish a case study for an institution that was imposing a penalty, and people just weren't that educated about it, weren't aware, and they weren't giving them any help to sign up for e-statements. And essentially their performance catapulted. So if you have incentives or penalties, you've got to be, whether it's a tool like this or something else, to make sure that they're taking advantage of the things that they should.
Great. So we're going to go through a couple of the features now. We'll also do a demo here in a bit. So we'll go through these live in action, but just to sort of profile a couple of them as we start. First one we're going to talk about is our enrollment widget. So there's so many different use cases for this one. Specifically, we're talking a little bit about e-statements here. But, as we're going through these journeys, there's points where we have to actually send the user out of the workflow to actually accomplish a task. For instance, if we want them to download that mobile app or we want them to log into online banking. But anytime we can keep them within that journey, it improves our conversion rate. So we built this widget specifically around the ability to collect those consents and have it be compliant with some of the different regulations that sit around it. You're seeing it, like I said, here in the e-statements, but we've seen people use it for courtesy pay or overdraft protection. We've also seen it used for pre-approved offers. Such a great piece of functionality there, again, to keep that user in the journey and get those actions completed. We'll talk a little bit about direct deposit. It was mentioned here just a second ago by Brenda. Really important piece of primacy, right? Where you have your paycheck going is likely your primary financial institution, and that's where you transact the most. So we want to get direct deposit put in place. We have lots of different methods for it. This direct deposit widget being one of the most core methods that we see users utilizing to do that conversion. We'll talk a little bit about card on file, as mentioned again earlier in the discussion. But what we're seeing is so many people are moving to, paying for different bills and subscription services online, things like Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, those are some core ones. But then also so much of transaction volume is moving to online retailers, Amazon. You may be purchasing stuff from Banana Republic and other sort of major retailers. And we want to get our portion of that interchange revenue. We also want to make it easy for the user to make those switches. So we want to make this as simple as possible. Laurie, some thoughts here as well?
Yeah, I mean, heck, I know my card company is certainly glad that they have my Amazon default payment, and I don't switch it that much, right? Once it's there, it's there. So yeah, this is the way Americans are paying bills. Obviously, there's a small slice of the market that still uses bill pay. We can support enrolling in that as well. Brenda and Brooke, we talked a little bit about this already, but if there's anything else you want to add around this feature, I'm going to just let you do that now. All right. I think, oh, go ahead, Brenda. Brenda?
It's just very, very good, and it's fast. Instead of a person having to recall from memory some of the places, you've got the most commonly used ones right here in a direct link.
Yeah, good point. And also, this list is always growing. So that's the good news.
Great. We also want to remove the barrier for getting enrolled in services. And so this comes up in direct deposit. It comes up when you have to download that mobile app and get logged in for the first time when you're trying to get into online banking. We've had this come up with one of our customers who actually suggested it to us, where we were having a conversation. They said, the biggest thing we get, I think it was 7% of all the calls that they got into their call center were just specifically somebody asking for an account or a member number. And they didn't have a good and easy way to give it to them. And so if you just think about the process, right, we walk into a branch, we open an account, we go into work the next day and we forgot that piece of paper at home, or we open the account online and we just forgot to write that account number or member number down. We're sort of stuck at that point. Typically, when you call the financial institution, they can't give it to you. And so this is one of those moments of friction that really just sort of raises its head multiple times within the account opening or the account onboarding workflow. And so we'll talk about that as we go through the demo.
Yeah, and Adam, I wanted to butt in real quick with another use case example for this widget that I just had the privilege of speaking with First Foundation Bank, and they do a lot of M&A and system upgrades, and sometimes people need user IDs and passwords. So this widget is flexible, and you can use it to share any sensitive data point where you want that double, this authentication process to trigger. So it's a really great way to just remove friction.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk about, getting access to those mobile applications. There's the concept was mentioned of just getting access to maybe a rewards app or, your typical mobile banking app. And, I didn't really understand the friction associated with this process before I started working for Digital Onboarding. But one of the things I found is when you search the App Store for these apps, typically you'll see, if you have common names of financial institutions, it'll be really hard to find the right one. Also, you end up, seeing these links on people's websites, but those links, when I'm on my desktop, are going to direct me to an app store on a device that I don't want the app on, right? So there's a lot of ways we can help reduce that friction. We'll show you some of those today in the demo.
Hey, Adam, I'm going to butt in just to answer Craig's question, since it's timely. He's asking, how long does the microsite stay up and open? The answer is forever. So you can create an unlimited number of journeys, unlimited messages, unlimited campaigns, and unless you delete them, they will be accessible. What is nice though, is if you ever wanted to go back and update a microsite, so let's say something about the product changed, if they go and click in that message from 6 months ago, they're going to see the updated site. So you can't do that with mailers, but you can do that with digital. Hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, we'll talk about it a little bit in the demo today as well. there is a specific time period on which we outreach, right? So while the site's available for that whole period of time, we may set a messaging cadence to remind the user to come back. That will have a lifespan. Typically, for an onboarding process, that's somewhere in the 30 to 45 day range. But beyond that, we won't be sending emails and text messages. But to Laurie's point, if the user goes back and finds it, they can access it. We also think that.
I have one more point, because perhaps that person is thinking, well, gosh, they're going to stay up forever. What if the person's already done that stuff? I did want to add that they're dynamic. So it keeps track of what you've done and haven't done, and those pages can disappear. So it will always stay up to date, was my other point.
Yeah. We also think it's important that people recognize that, this is not a replacement for branch staff. This is not a replacement for your member services team. It's supposed to augment and support them, right? So we see users using this within the branch setting where they're actually, walking somebody through this guide. Maybe the person just opened an account, but they don't have time to go through it all, but just kind of introducing the concept. Maybe they do want to complete all the steps in the branch, and instead of them sitting there with a checklist, they're working alongside that individual to solve these issues. Another great use case here for that blending physical and digital together is to utilize chat and video support services. So we really think it's important to embed those within the workflow. Unique differentiation of a community financial institution is that you have people who understand your products and they understand your customers. Whereas some of these, sort of fintech elements, they don't have a call center. They don't have anybody who can support a user in that way, right? So it is a unique differentiator for your brand, and we like to blend those two together where we can. You'll see this in the demo. We also want to make sure that we deliver this message consistently in every channel we can, right? So we'll show you today an email concept where somebody has just opened a brand new account. We've reached out via email. If we had consent to do text messaging, we'd highly recommend that was done as well at the same time. But we can also deliver this messaging within digital banking platforms as well. And this is super important because what this allows us to do is have a consistent reminder message schedule going across. Laurie talked a little bit about the fact that these sites are dynamic. And so as a user completes specific actions in any of the channels that we outreach in, that will dynamically change their experience in every other channel, right? So the next message they receive, say they completed direct deposit, is not going to be to remind them to do direct deposit. It's going to be maybe to remind them to do this card on file and get their subscriptions updated and their online retailers updated. But they're going to see that in their text messages. They're going to see that in their email. They're going to see that in the microsite, and they will also see that in digital banking. And as they complete those actions, they'll see different things. We can also let them complete, not just notify them that they have these actions to do, but we can have them complete those actions within the digital banking platform as well. So really powerful new set of functionality by our platforms. We also want to open up those lines of communications. I mentioned text messaging. As an industry, we know how painful it was when email became the dominant channel, and we didn't have consent for email messages for bulk of our member and customer populations. And so even if you're not planning to start text messaging today, getting that consent is so hugely important in the future that you can use this channel. We see people utilizing text for a variety of different really cool use cases. I talked a little bit about indirect. That's one that I've seen recently that's been really powerful. But just using text in general, when it's right and appropriate, is such a higher response rate compared to email. So one that we really do want to open up that channel if we can. We'll also see people use it for cross sells and personalized offers. So this is one of the really unique parts of the platform where you may not want to give this kind of information within an email, being able to deliver it within a journey, and then also give them some other tools, right? So not just talk about that offer that's personalized, what their rate potentially may be, what sort of approval range they may be from a value perspective, but also, what are different mortgage types? Maybe you want to educate them on, credit scores and how important those are. Maybe you want to give them a mortgage calculator. So having that ability to create a multi-step journey that really guides somebody down a path for a cross-sell offer is very unique. So Laurie, some thoughts?
Yeah, I do. I've got some thoughts and I want to bring Brenda in to speak. So obviously, delivering timely, relevant cross-sell offers takes data. We've spent a tremendous amount of time perfecting our data model and making sure that we can consume and take in your data and make it usable for you for a targeting situation like this. And I know, Brenda, you're pretty passionate about data, and I asked you on our call what advice you might have. Do you want to just share?
I guess really for going with digital onboarding, you need to know what data you have on your system. The more data that you have that's concrete evidence of what services your account holder has with you, what they use, even down to this offer, when I look at this one, what their credit score is. So you don't want to send messaging out to the wrong audience. And they do this by absolutely taking our data files that we submit. Ours are automated. So every day data files are being submitted, and the intelligence in that file lets us know who to direct this to. And getting the data right is the number one most important job, is making sure that you've got the right data over in the system for digital onboarding, and then the sky's the limit.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure I got that across, because we do understand that the data is what makes this real magic, and so that's why we have spent so much time working on that.
Yeah, Victor just asked a really timely question about connectivity with the core. So we do actually have connectivity with Scimitar today. I think that's what you're asking about. So we have a power on that you can install, and it'll automatically transmit data over to us that allows us to understand not just the contact level information, but also the account level information, right? So we understand an individual, the services that they're subscribed to. So if they've already got online banking or mobile banking, things like that. But we also understand every single type of account that they have and what are those balances of those accounts and a lot of other attributes associated with that. So.
Yeah, and I understand, I don't want to get too deep into it, but Adam, I understand that is a pretty flexible integration. You can define wildcard fields and decide what data you want to bring over to us, and we can help consult on that.
Correct. Yeah. You have 20 wildcard fields, which allows a lot of flexibility in how you send data and what data you send to us. So. Okay, we also have the ability to survey an individual. So, we were just talking about data and mining your data and really understanding your data. But one of the things we find is, like, one of the easiest ways is just ask somebody, right? So maybe somebody will, if asked appropriately, they'll tell you, like, I'm interested in potentially buying a home in the future, or, I'm worried about saving for retirement, or I need help with budgeting or other different types of functionality. And so not only can we ask those questions within the workflow of one of our journeys, but we can automatically make that actionable. So if somebody says, hey, I'm potentially interested in buying a home, we can immediately trigger a journey associated with home buying and what that process looks like and how they can get better information about it. Or if they're interested in potentially purchasing a car, we can give them some information about our auto loan program and the other different capabilities we have in that space. So, it's great to have data that you can mine and figure out, but sometimes just asking the question will give you the best data you can possibly get. All right, so let's see the platform in action. All right, so the storyline I'm going to take you through today is we're just going to go through a new account journey for a checking account. So I just opened a brand new checking account at my financial institution. So again, we would have reached out via any method we possibly could have. In this case, it's via an email. Everything that I'm going to show you today is customizable, right? So the content of what it is, the format of the emails, branding, colors, logos, everything is customizable. So this is a fictional version of a financial institution that we're going to go through. But remember this, that you have full control of the platform, very flexible, very easy to do that design work in the back. I'm going to click on Get Started. It's going to take us to our new account journey. So just first, I want to kind of orient you around the screen and what you're looking at. As I mentioned before, these are personalized guides, so they're unique microsites per the individual. When I say they're unique, it's not just the name of the individual, but it's every single step within this journey. Laurie talked a little bit about the journey, understanding through the data elements, like where you are within that journey, but also the context of who you are as an individual when you open the account. So say I opened this and this was the second checking account I had opened. I I may have already got access to online banking and mobile banking, and so I may not see those steps in here. So instead of a 7-step journey, I may have a 5-step journey. If I opened an auto loan, this would be a completely different journey. A mortgage, a completely different journey, right? So every element of this is completely customizable. You'll see that blending of the physical and digital with that chat functionality here. So ability to reach out and get contact when you need to. We try to gamify the process. So we'll put this progress wheel up here. We can also change it to a monetary element. This allows the user to have context of where they are within the process, like how long it's going to take. It also really gets them focused on getting it to 100%, right? So they want to make sure that they complete that journey and get that 100% within there. And that really helps us get context and promote the user behavior that we want. We can include any other information, pertinent information you want to include down here. So you have full control of those elements as well. So the first step in this process is going to be to get that consent for text messaging. So we're going to ask the user to enter their mobile number. They can view the terms and conditions down here, hit submit. At this time, I've gotten a text message on my cell phone. So I've gotten a consented number at this point because they've looked at terms and conditions. They provided me with that number, and they've hit the submit button. But I don't have a verified cell phone number until they click on the link that's in that text message. This allows me to know that they have possession of it, and it's their cell phone number. So hugely important step, as I mentioned before. Even if you're not doing text messaging today, just getting that consent could be super valuable in the future when you guys do decide to open up that channel. So the next step in our process is going to be to get direct deposit. Here we'll talk a little bit about some of the capabilities and uniqueness and why they want to do that. And we'll give them any option we possibly can. So as I mentioned, such an important part of primacy to get those people to do direct deposit. We do not care how they do it, right? We just want to provide them with the tools they need. So here's the first point of friction that you typically run into. Again, it's typically that they need their account number. So easy to find the address of the financial institution, easy to find the routing number of the financial institution, but typically that account number or member number is a friction point for them. So what we can do here is we can do some lightweight authentication to get them access to it. So we'll send a code to my email address. I'll copy that code and I will enter it back in here, hit submit, and it's now going to expose that account number. You're going to see it again exposed within the online banking space as well, because they're going to need that member number or account number again there. But this typically is one of the main elements of self-service, right? A user is able to, at this point, actually utilize it. Laurie talked about some other really cool use cases. We talked about so many digital banking conversions these days where, they're going into that conversion and they have two options. They've either got to make everybody re-register completely from scratch, or the other option that they have is they can give them a temporary password. But how do you get a temporary password to a user, right? Like you can send them a letter in the mail and provide them with that, but chances are so many people are not going to do it. So there's such a huge call center expense typically around those conversions. And this is such a great way to lower that down. Not only just educate the person about the important dates and the elements, train them maybe with some potential videos, but again, give them that temporary password can be a really powerful use case. So that's way one. They can obviously self-service here. They can, fill out that form at work if that's what they have. They can enter it into their HR or payroll provider through that information. The other way is to use our widget. And so if they click here, we'll give them some options. So if they work in the gig economy, they can select those individuals. They can look for their employer. They can look for their payroll provider, which are really common names like Workday, ADP, Gusto, Paychex. These are some of the ones that you see out there in the market quite frequently. Or they can look through a popular list. So I'm going to search for IBM. I'm going to click on IBM. I'm going to enter my credentials to get into the HR and payroll system. When I enter that in, I'm going to get some options here. Now, every payroll provider is a little bit different, so some of them allow for all these different features, but the entire amount, percentage, specific amount, I'm going to do the entire paycheck. I'm going to hit confirm, and then we're going to do everything else for the user. So we're going to update what type of account this is, the address, the routing number, the account number, all those pertinent informations. We're also going to send them an email to let them know that it was completed and allow them to come back and do additional paychecks if they have them. So if you work in the gig economy, typically you've got multiple employers, and therefore you're going to have multiple payroll elements that you're going to want to move over. So this gives them the ability to do this. They can also go right back through this widget to do it again if they want to do it in this specific workflow. What's great about this widget as well is we store all this data on the back end. So not only do we know that they moved their paycheck, but we know that they moved their paycheck from IBM to your institution. If they moved a percentage, we would know that percentage. If they moved a specific amount, we would know that specific amount. So it gives you the opportunity to look at that data and potentially run additional campaigns that say, hey, we can move additional funds into a new savings account or something like that. So it gives you some great information that you don't typically get in other processes. Now that we've got some funds coming into the institution, we want to make sure we take advantage of that, new, more modern way of paying bill payments. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to try and get them to move and update their card on file with different retailers and subscription services. And so this, unlike bill payment, is a profit center for the institution, right? Interchange generates revenue for our institution. Bill payment typically is a cost center for the business. So we want to give them the option to look at these different things. So I'm going to select a couple. I'm going to select Amazon and Apple for this one. I'm going to enter my card details one time. And when I do that, I'm going to get the option to enter my username and password for each one of those different services that I had. So here we'll just enter the username and password, and then much like that other widget, it's going to do everything you asked it to do. So it's going to go in and it's going to update that payment method as top of wallet. So I don't know about you, but I typically don't change my credit card on Amazon very frequently. It's only when I'm in that payment workflow. So I don't even know how to change it. I'd probably be able to figure it out, but I'd have to search through a lot of screens. You think of other things like Netflix or Hulu, I really only access them on my TV. And so changing that credit card or debit card on file would be quite painful for me. So this just makes it simpler. We talk about this within the context of a new account opening workflow, but there's so many other great use cases for this. We've seen customers use it for Black Friday promotions or when Prime Day is coming up to let people know that they should update their payment method. We'll also see them use it when you've got a lost or stolen debit card and they've got a new one reissued, to just give the user not only a reminder to make those payment moves, but give them the tools to actually make it happen. If you run programs where you're trying to incentivize somebody to use a debit card or credit card on a more frequent basis, this is also a great tool to give them some capabilities to self-serve and do that really quickly within a user interface. So many great use cases for this one. For online banking, we can help them enroll. So we'll talk about some of the great features we've put in our digital tools. Again, we'll give them access to that account number. If I hadn't done that authentication I had done earlier, this would have that click to reveal that you saw previously. And we'll direct them right to that online enrollment page. Mobile banking, I mentioned this before, I have to search for these apps quite frequently because sometimes when we do these customized demos, we want that, this link down here to direct you to the appropriate location in the App Store. But when I search, oftentimes I can't find the app. It's more difficult than I would have thought it ever was, with Apple and Google being the core companies that provide this functionality. It's a little more difficult. And also I see that, there's these links on people's websites, but again, it's directing me on my desktop to an app store where I don't want the capabilities at. So here, if we were on our mobile device, you would just see this box disappear and it'd have an install now button to direct them. We don't need to ask them what app store they're going to. The link's smart enough to figure out the context of what sort of device they're on. So if they were on an Android device, it's going to send them to Google Play. If they were on an Apple device, it's going to send them to the Apple Store. Since I'm on my desktop, again, I don't want this link on my desktop, so we're going to give them a couple options. They can enter their mobile number and send themselves the link, or we've all become really familiar with these QR codes. They can hover over this and direct them to the appropriate app store and give them access right away. The next element in this is going to be our enrollment widget. So, we're using this in the context of e-statements. We mentioned a couple of use cases earlier. And again, don't care how they sign up for these services. We'll give them all the aspects they can. So A common one is, people log into online banking and they can enroll that direction. Obviously, that sends them out of this journey, which is not our preferred method. So we built this widget really to solve that issue, to keep them within the journey and allow them to enroll in those services. So you'll see here, we'll ask them for consent. They'll say yes. We'll enter my information in. You'll notice that I'm unable to complete this or hit the submit button. It's because I haven't yet viewed the terms and conditions. So important element of the e-sign regulation is to make sure that they have viewed the terms and conditions. So here we'll allow them to go and view those terms and conditions. Once they view them, that step is completed and they're able to submit it. We not only track this within the back end of our platform, we also take a screenshot of whatever terms and conditions they accepted at that point in time and restore that for you as well. And we have webhooks associated with this that will allow us to return that information to downstream systems. So if you store that within the core or within your digital banking provider, we can use that webhook to communicate back to those systems. So in real time, we know that that consent's been given. The next step in this one's going to be a survey. So ask if they're interested in any other products and services. We have this as a single answer or a single answer question at the present moment. You can make it a multi answer question. So let's just say I'm interested in mortgages and how was the process? Very satisfied, hit submit. We mentioned before within those slides that what we can do here is we can actually deliver a campaign immediately to the user based on how they answered that survey, right? So if somebody said they were very unsatisfied with this process, we initiate a survey to ask them more questions about why that was, or talk about the process. Maybe if they answered the question they were interested in auto loans, we have a specific journey associated with that. So some great use cases for automating that next step within that process. All right, back to our slides. And I believe we've got another poll question coming up. So
We sure do. All right, which of the following are strategic priorities for your bank and credit union? This is a multi-select answer. So just go ahead and choose, and then we'll reveal the answers in a little bit. I always try to guess what the answers are going to be before we show. Nicole, you can show them whenever you're ready. I don't know if we're still getting answers or not. Okay. Interesting. All right, great results. I do like seeing member experience up so high. I saw some recent data saying that investing in the customer experience was a top priority, but when it comes to spending money on it, it's in the bottom third. So it was good to see at least that it's up at the top of the list.
Great. So obviously, security is paramount in this industry. We all have backgrounds in financial services, so understand that really well. We've got our SOC 2 Type 2 in place and all those capabilities buttoned up. From a flexibility standpoint, lots of great use cases for how we get data within the system. We have, Laurie mentioned it earlier, a really flexible data model that allows people to get data into our platform, and we do integrate with a number of different cores. I saw some mentioned up there. We've worked with Fiserv in the past, or FIS in the past on a variety of different use cases there. As I mentioned, we mentioned the Scimitar Power On, so definitely can help with that data import functionality. It's such a key part of how we get data into our system.
Yeah, Adam,
from an implement.
I'm going to butt in.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I did want to make sure because there were some questions in the chat. And so I want to make sure we've already addressed the Scimitar question. Jen was asking about Jack Henry, online banking, Net Teller, or Banno. I thought you might want to address that.
Yep. So Banno, we do have access to deliver content into Banno already. So when I mentioned that, messaging within a digital banking platform, Banno is supported there. We are working on Alchemy at the present moment for those of you who are on Alchemy. And we do have plans to work on both NCRDI as well as Q2 Typhone is building an integration right now as well. So there's quite a few of them in the works from that perspective of that digital messaging. It's brand new functionality, just released it at the beginning of the year. So working through those digital banking integrations.
Yeah, and I want to highlight why that's so exciting. It's not just messaging. All those cool widgets that you saw a second ago? Imagine if your customers and members could log into digital banking and see the direct deposit widget or other, switch their cards on file. So you can leverage that functionality. The tracking is all synced. So if they complete the step in digital banking, it's not going to show up in their microsite. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. A common question we get asked is how long does it take to launch these campaigns, right? So the most complex part is that data element. Because we've worked with so many of these different providers right now, it is a relatively quick process. Our typical launch is about 4 to 6 weeks. That includes everything from getting that data into the system, training you on the system, and launching your first couple campaigns. So, we help you with the design and sort of architecture of those different campaigns. We have a library of best practice templates that most of our clients leverage to start out. So if you're, wanting to target those checking activations, we've got a couple best practice templates we can work through with you. If you're looking to focus on indirect lending as a short-term objective, we've got some best practice templates in that space. If you're going through one of those core conversions, we've got some best practice templates there. So that really speeds up that process for us. Here's a little subsection of some of our clients. So one thing I like to point out is, they're banks and credit unions of all different sizes, right? So people come to us from, the smallest of financial institutions all the way up to very, very large ones, because this issue isn't isolated to one part of the market. It seems to be pervasive across everywhere. And there's so many different use cases for it, right? So what we're seeing is, it just depends on the focus of the financial institution. Sometimes it's commercial banking that they're really focused on, and that's where they want us to help. You see Leader Bank down in the corner, and they do a lot of escrow, and escrow becomes such a massive burden on their business when they send out those statements. They just get hammered within their call center. We've got a great use case that just came out from Leader Bank, just talking about how much our journeys have been able to facilitate a much better experience for their customer base, but also really reduce their costs as a business. So many great stories around these clients. Account utilization, obviously a core component of what we do as a business. You saw some of that within those activation campaigns. We see some amazing lift within these different areas for financial institutions. And I always love this quote from Kristen in the middle about how great the adoption's been. It's through the roof for her, just utilizing these journeys. Nothing really unique or different about her process, just making it much, much more intuitive and easy for her customers to solve those issues. We talked a little bit about cross-sell and upsell, but it's obviously a big element of what we do as a business to facilitate those. So on the left, you're seeing Certified Federal, where they were actually delivering these cross-sell rate campaigns associated with credit cards, and saw such a huge improvement in that conversion compared to what they were doing previously with just a general email campaign. On the right, you're seeing DCU, Digital Credit Union. They were one of our original founding institutions, so they help us develop the platform. They do not do any indirect auto loans, but they do a lot of direct auto loans. And when they do those, obviously one of their main goals is to convert that individual into a regular primary financial institution relationship. And so they had a typical process. They then added in our capabilities. And once they did that, they saw an 18% lift in conversion of getting people to adopt checking accounts compared to what they were doing previously. So a really important piece. I mentioned Leader Bank. This is a case study, again, 27% reduction in call center volume just associated with those escrow accounts. Obviously save them a lot of money and time, and also improve that customer experience. Our customers not only, we see great growth in our customers, but they're really happy. So we have 100% platform satisfaction, net renewal rate of 149%, and service satisfaction 95%. So, we have raving fans for our platform, and we absolutely love that. So, Laurie, I think you're going to ask our other panelists some questions about this.
Yeah, I mean, as a CMO, this is a gift. being able to talk to customers and hear what they like about the platform and what they like about the team, which is also really important. And I just, before we get to the Q&A, I just want to give Brooke and Brooke first the opportunity to share, anything else with the room of individuals that are considering adopting a platform like this.
So we have, and I'm honestly saying this, we have 0 complaints with digital onboarding, none. They're phenomenal. My actual account rep, she helps every time we build a new journey. She helps me. I mean, she literally, asks me what I want, and we do it together, but she helps me. And anytime I have a question, I have her cell phone number in my phone, and I can text her, or I can call her. I mean, we've been nothing but satisfied. The results we've seen, I was thinking back on some of our campaigns. I had told Laurie earlier, we have issues internally because we have several different vendors for different things, like online banking and just different things. We have different vendors. So that's kind of created an issue for us, but they have jumped through hoops to get our reporting to where we can see what our results are. So I can't say enough good things about digital onboarding, and I just can't. It's been a game changer for us.
Oh, that was so nice to hear. Brenda, anything that you'd like to add? Just could be advice or just any parting thoughts.
It's easy to implement, and you have someone like Brooke said, who is with you every step of the way. They can guide you on the frequency and content of messages. You may have multiple message streams going out at one time, and you don't want to bombard any individual account with several messages at once. And there's a way to prioritize these, and that really doesn't have to be your primary concern. You have a dedicated consultant who understands what messaging you have out there and how to help you set these up.
I'm really glad you hit that point, because I know we talked a lot about the technology, less about the team. Just know this, we serve huge institutions and we serve small ones, and they all need help. So we've built campaigns for giant national brands, and we really help out people with 1 or 2 person marketing teams. And that's the benefit of having a platform that's only serving financial institutions. And you can also compare your results to the rest of the FIs in the platform, so you know if you're doing better or worse. Great, thanks for that.
Cool. So I think we have one final poll question and some Q&A.
Sure
so
do.
I'll bring up the poll.
And yeah, we're not going to reveal these answers, but if you like what you saw and you'd like us to build a campaign for you, kind of like that activation campaign Adam just showed you, we'll do that, and we'll set up a meeting, we'll show it to you, and answer questions and talk more about how we can help. All right, so we're getting towards the end, and I know we've still got some unanswered questions. So Adam, I'll just let you roll on.
Sure. So do you want me to just start answering them as we
why
go?
don't
Or
I'll read some of them off, because I know which ones we've already. So we did
Cool.
Confirm, obviously, the systems that we integrate with, including Scimitar. Now, I know you covered this, but let's answer this. Someone asked whether we can choose whether the member gets onboarded initially via an email or a text message. The answer is yes, but don't forget to consider both. It's not a bad idea to be texting and emailing during this really critical 30, 60-day period. Oh, here's a good one. And Adam, I'm going to give you the pleasure of answering this, because I know we've got the same answer. Do we recommend onboarding current customers or members?
Absolutely. So many of the campaigns we end up doing are what we refer to as kind of like a reboarding campaign, where that user opened an account. Maybe they just did not do anything in that sort of immediate period after opening the account, or maybe they were using the account and then they've since sort of abandoned it. So we use these reboarding campaigns. They can use a lot of the same elements that you see here previously, or they could be using a totally different style. So yeah, current member adoption is absolutely a core use case. So.
The next one, I'm just going to answer real quickly. Someone wants to know what credit unions have adopted the platform. So the first thing I want to say is we co-developed this platform with a credit union, Digital Federal Credit Union, DCU, out in Massachusetts. The second point is we serve well over 100 institutions, and we do skew towards credit unions. So too many to name. If you go to our website, you'll see a ton of press releases there. We just issued one a few weeks ago that lists a pretty long list of FIs. What would the approach with existing customers be to gain a larger share of wallet? Probably too much to answer on this event, but we do have a lot of strategies. If you go to our website under the platform tab, there's a resources section. There's all kinds of playbooks, guides. If you want to meet with us, we can go into more details about that. But our first advice is activate them and onboard them for the product they just opened. And then we've got strategies to implement throughout the life cycle from there. Adam, I'm going to ask you if you understand, or maybe Daryl will write in to clarify. He's asking, does the data side segment like kind in your customer base? So I think he really is asking about segmentation.
Yeah, so we have some targeting capabilities within the platform where you can really sort of slice and dice your user population. One of the things I talk about all the time when I do a demo is, as a marketer, usually one of the most complicated parts is just getting access to data and getting the right reports. Because we are seeing data fed into our system from systems of record like core applications or digital banking applications, you can then take that and utilize that to define the population for a specific campaign. So something we can definitely show you within a customized demo, and it gives you a lot of functionality. I wouldn't say we're a CRM or a data analytics company the way you'd see some of these other ones out there, but we do have a lot of those capabilities embedded into our platform, and we do work with a lot of them to create segmentation as well. So.
Great. I want to ask, Marie's got a question for Brooke and Brenda, and I know you've got stuff to share on it. Did you have a tough time cost justifying this with your executive management team? So I'm going to let, I guess I'll let Brooke go first, and then I'll move to Brenda, and then I'd like to add something at the end.
We didn't at all, because like I said in the beginning, we needed it. It was like and I told Laurie this morning, we were already looking, we were searching, and I know everybody plays off of COVID, but then COVID hit, and when COVID hit, we didn't have this, we didn't have anything. So we were kind of stuck. So it was a no-brainer for our executive team.
Brenda, I know you've got advice around this and who should be in the room. Do you want to share your perspective?
We had absolutely no trouble at all. This was a budget item that did have to be presented to our board to get approval. But this is something that honestly, we felt like we could not afford to be without. Is getting the right message in the right hands at the right time. And to us, this was 100% the only way to do that with both existing new accounts and the existing account holders.
Yeah, and you actually gave me a piece of advice that I'm gonna share because I think it's relevant, which is, I think part of the reason that it was so smooth is that you did a very good job of kind of bringing people along, like the relevant stakeholders, making sure the right people were in the room. And so that's a piece of advice I had. And then one more thing I'd like to add, which is we have invested time in creating a tool that you can share with your executive management team. It's effectively an ROI calculator, but instead of just handing you a spreadsheet, we generate kind of like a little guide. It explains everything. And we found that tool has been helpful as well. All right, what else do we have here? Yes, Jack, we will be sharing the recording with everyone tomorrow via email, so watch out for that. And what else do we have here? I think I've got maybe one in the chat.
Yeah.
Maybe I addressed them all. Am I missing any here?
Well, so I guess the question was asked, like we were doing it in a desktop browser. Everything's responsive design, so absolutely, you could do this on a mobile device, and also within mobile applications. We are able, with that cross-channel functionality that you saw, sort of delivering messaging into the digital banking platforms. We can't do that. Jacob asked the question about Lumen. So we basically, just to talk a little bit about cross-channel, we prioritize it based on customer demand, right? So as customers bring us the different platforms they want us to integrate with, we start working on those specifically. As I mentioned, Banno was the first one that we were requested. Alchemy was number 2. Q2 has definitely been one that's been mentioned. NCRDI has been mentioned. Lumen has been mentioned. So there's quite a few that are out there on the list. And I did mention Typhone because we had a customer who asked them to develop an integration into us. So that one's underway as well. So
answer Jen's question, if that's okay, which is how much do you need the institution's IT department to get involved? This is a very important point. I'm really glad she asked that. There's no software to install. There is no heavy lift for IT. There are a couple of technical steps that need to be completed. For example, making sure that we can send emails on your behalf. That's an example. But when Adam quoted that average implementation timeframe, it really is that quick. We had one customer go live in 3 weeks. So hopefully that answered your question, but it's not, you're not going to need to commit your team for weeks or anything.
It's data. I was going to say it's just data ingress, right? So how do we get data in the system? If you want to use a customized URL, want to use a specific email domain, those are the main things your IT department's going to be involved in. So it's, they're lightweight tasks. Sorry, Laurie, you were going to ask the text.
Yeah, is the text functionality built in? Yes, it is. So it's all part of the platform. Same with the email. Yeah. All right, if we have no other questions, thank you everyone for coming today. A special thank you to Brooke and Brenda for sharing your advice. And thank you, Adam, for hosting. Everyone, you'll see the email tomorrow, and I hope you have a wonderful day.